Hey guys, how are you doing? Today we're gonna talk about a topic that probably most of us love, which is attack in chess. On the other hand, many of us probably had bad experiences, sometimes starting an attack when we shouldn't. In many cases a premature attack. So today we're gonna investigate what makes a position ideal for an attack and when it is wrong to start attacking. So one of the main principles which is very important when we attack is that we need to have our pieces developed, so in order that our pieces can take action in the attack. And another very important point is that we need to have enough firepower, enough pieces to attack, whether it's a pawn or a king. We need to have normally more pieces than the opponent. So if just to put it simply, if we have something like 4 pieces attacking and the other guy has 1 piece defending, it makes sense to start an attack, because normally 1 piece would not be able to hold 4 pieces. So let's say if we have 2 equal pieces, for example 2 knights attacking 1 knight, then we see that these 2 knights will overpower 1 knight. So this is a position. So we start with the first position. It's a game played in 1926 between Spielmann and Widmer, and so we're talking about 2 of the top players from the 20s. And here in this position it is black to play, and black played the move f4, which is an attacking move, so it is tempting, so even for top players to attack. On the other hand, if we go back and check the position, we see that black still has pieces to develop, for instance his bishop, his rook, and also we see that on the king side, which is where the pawn move is made, we see that white has a lot of pieces around or nearby. So he has the king, the rook, the pawn, 2 pawns, the queen. So from a general standpoint, we see that this move is at least very risky. So in this position it would make sense to play a developing move like bishop to e6, or at least this is the first move that we should consider. Bishop e6, queen e7, well, even king h8 sometimes is a move that we could consider to avoid this open diagonal. If white plays a move like c4, open the diagonal, so the black king can be checked. So that's why the move f4 is very risky. So here white played queen e2. We see that now also white has threats like bishop e4, c4, undermining the support of the knight. And here, well, after a dubious move, then came a bad move, which is knight to g5. Or again another dubious move. Here another move to consider was the move bishop to f5, and start calculating if this move works or not. Because after knight to g5, here followed another developing and attacking move, bishop a3. And again, probably here it was better to move the rook, but here black took on f3, queen f3, and then we see that white basically developed all of his pieces, and black is still basically achieved nothing. Now even has a rook under attack, the diagonal is open, so he'll follow rook f7. Well, knight takes e5 wasn't possible because of bishop h7. And after rook f7, well, basically white kept on developing and won the game easily. Just here, actually here it is white the one who attacked. So just to show how the game quickly ended, after bishop takes e7, and black resigned in view of, well, many moves work here, but queen takes g5, simple enough, just attacking the rook, and the rook cannot move because of queen takes d8. So we see here how again a top player, we're not talking about an amateur, so this is a very typical mistake in amateurs. They want to attack quickly even when they don't like their position, But you know, there has to be conditions to start an attack, so we cannot start an attack whenever we want. So here we see that a top player here start an attack prematurely, and actually he lost very quickly. So here we have another position played between Unziker and Saemisch in 1947, and here we see that it is white to play, and we see that white has already developed pretty much all of his pieces. White has castled as well. So here we kind of, at least it would make more sense to attack. First of all, we developed all of the pieces, we moved all of the pieces, so now we can start an attack even with pawns. So I would like to ask you to pause the video and try to find the best plan for white. So here white played the move f4, which is a great move. So it's first of all it's an attacking move, and also it activates, it will attack on e5, also prepares f5, and also it activates the last piece that was not very active, which is the rook on f1. And after taking on f4, bishop takes f4 is an important move. The point being that now knight takes f4 would just lose after queen takes f7. So here after bishop takes f4, well, basically white has a winning position. We see that black still didn't castle, so after queen b6, king h1. Well, here the lesser evil was to castle, long castle, and after bishop e5, white still has a very dominating position, a much better position. And after knight h7, here followed another attacking move, which is rook takes d7. So we see when we have all the the pieces taking place in the attack, it's easy to find these sacrifices. They just come easily. So after rook takes d7, king takes d7, bishop e3. It's a nice move, just with a double attack on the queen, and rook takes f7 coming. While here Saemisch played rook h f8, but after taking on e3, rook f7, king d8, and queen e6 would just lead to mate. But after rook h f7, rook h f8, sorry, even rook f7 still works, and also we are collecting the queen. So here black resigned. So in this game, it's played between Steinitz and Weiss in 1882. And here white to play. So here again we have a position where we feel that attacking at least makes more sense. So white already developed all of his pieces. So here he started an attack with g4. The point is to gain space and to attack the bishop on f6. So that remember that when we have more pieces attacking, so after rook d8 and g5, bishop e7, sorry, bishop e7, knight g4, knight c6, and queen h4, we see that white is piling up on the king side, just three pieces attacking, and we could say that no pieces defending, so we feel that the position is already building up for an attack. Knight e4 makes sense to cut the bishop. Bishop e4, just bring another guy. And here white has a winning position, while g6 could have been played, but still the attack is continuing. Even f5 is a move here. And after f5 by black, just trying to contain the pieces, this doesn't work in view of g takes, knight takes on f6, and queen h7. And basically white has a winning position here, so he's material up and still having an attack. So we can quickly check the remaining moves, but in any case the position is just overwhelming for white. So So in the last examples, I wanted to take a few games from Mikhail Tal, which is one of probably our favorite attackers, one of the arguably the best attacker of all time. And we're gonna check with the ideas, the principles that we learned. We're gonna check if these sacrifices they are good or bad, so or at least if they make sense or not. So the first position is Tal against Salnikov, played in Latvia in 1970. And here White played the move knight g5, the very aggressive knight g5. So it's attacking on e6 and on h7. So the knight has to be taken. But before that, we will check the main principles. So we see that white and black, none of them is fully developed. So these attacks at first sight they are very risky. Also, in terms of development, white has 3 pieces developed and black has 2 pieces developed. So if we apply this principle, this attack is just probably dubious and extremely, risky. And actually, well, I analyzed this position, and it turns out that this sacrifice is not good. So just to see, well, you probably heard that Tal sometimes has sacrifices that he put pressure on his opponents, but his sacrifices, some of them, they were not sound. So here the knight has to be taken, as we said, because it's just attacking too many things. And after queen h5, here g6 was played, which is a good move, but I also wanted to illustrate the point that even here king e7 is a move that could have been played, because after knight f3, a move like knight f3 attacking on g5, this is a strong threat. h6, the position is extremely unclear. So even if this is what Tal wanted to get, he's getting, this is a bit of gambling, because this position is not winning at all for white. Even here, a move like castle would make sense. At least here, white would try to play, against this the lack of coordination. This, this bishop is really bad at playing. Also the king. But for instance, even here after h6, if white wants to cash in after bishop takes, h takes is just good for black. Either if he takes on h8, then queen b6 just frees room for the king to go to the king side, or after queen g5, just giving back material is good enough. This is a very important resource that we need to consider when we attack. We need to also, when we attack even like this, just very directly, we need to consider the resource that the opponent can give back material. So so the move h6 was playable, and also the move g6 was good. Here Tal took on g6, and after takes he has to take the pawn. He can take the rook, but again it's just 2 minor pieces for the rook. He wants to attack, but here again we see that if we're talking about the pieces, so here the king so far is not being defended, but white so far only has 1 piece to attack. So that's why if we count this balance, we see that this attack is a bit shaky. But the point is that after king e7, knight c4 is the trick that Tal had. And here, well, black made the decisive mistake. This is also important. We need to acknowledge the psychological value of attacking, but we also need to analyze if the attack is sound or not. So after bishop h6, this is bad, because after taking on g5, taking, queen g7, king e8, knight d6, very important, is checkmate. Don't take the rook, because after taking the rook, then black has a move like knight f8. So but if I go back to the critical position, remember that I just spoke about a resource that the defender has. The defender is 2 pieces ahead. So I would like to ask you to pause the video and find the defensive move for black that actually gives him an advantage. So here the move actually is very logical. It's again, as we said, giving back material. So the point is, the move is knight d takes e5, and it also has many purposes. One of them is it attacks the queen. So another one, it takes the pawn on d6. So now knight d6 ideas are not strong anymore. And last but not least, the king now has an escape route. So after this move, black is just having a clear advantage. For instance, after bishop takes d5, then king d7 is important. That I said, the queen is being attacked. So bishop takes d8 would not work on view of knight takes g6. And here, after knight takes e5, getting the back one of the pieces, knight takes e5, d takes, king d7. This is just a better position for black. And I want to highlight what I spoke about, that white has so far 1 or 2 pieces attacking, but still, you know, white cannot bring all of the army into the attack. The rooks you see are not playing, so there's just not enough material to accomplish the attack. And our last example is the game between Tal, again another game by Tal against Bilek, played in 1964, and Tal is white. He is to play, and here we see that white is already almost developed and black is not. So we see that black has the rooks in the corner, but white is already castled. White has the rooks active, or at least just one move away from getting active. So here he played the move 96. So at least from the general point of view, from if we apply the principles, we see that this move makes much more sense. So even though here black played the move queen d6, which is just bad, because after taking on g7, king f8, basically white got a winning attack. Okay, I'll quickly continue with the game, but bishop b3, a5, knight c7, queen d7, d6, and here black resigned in view of a move like queen d7, rook f4, takes, and queen f5, just collecting the rook. And here again, actually, the piece had to be taken. So instead of queen d6, after taking on e6, the position is extremely complicated. But at least, you know, here we could say that it's probably much easier to play for white, and you know, white has all the pieces, whereas black has to find very, very accurate moves to defend here. So even white can even play a move like rook hf1 to prevent black from castling. And this sacrifice, even though here it's still not clear the sacrifice, it makes much more sense than the previous one. And we can check this by applying the principles that we talked about. So guys, to conclude today's lesson about when to start an attack, so I think that the most important points are that first of all, a good sign or a good metric for you to say when to start an attack is one of them is if you have all your pieces developed. It really makes sense. Also, when you start an attack, just count the number of the pieces that participate in the attack and the number of the defending pieces that try to hold the attack. So if you have more pieces, then this attack normally will have a good future. Otherwise, it will not make a lot of sense. And finally, this is very important: when you attack, you should consider the resource of the defender to give back material to hold the position. So feel free to comment on the video section and let me know if there's any other topic that interests you, so that I could prepare a lesson about. So that's all for today, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.